So, principle 9. Let's go around this way from Arthur. Do you want to read it?
Principle 9. Discuss with the humility, gratitude, mutual application, and respect.
Thank you. So, let's have a look at some quotes. Want to read those two?
Gatayantas cha mam nityam, tuchayanti cha ramanti cha. They derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Second, satam prasangan mama viryasam vida bhavanti vid karna rasayanha katha. In the cessation of the pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart.
Okay, so what should be our experience when we're doing discussions?
Satisfied and blissful.
Satisfied and blissful? That's a fact. Anything else?
Enlightening.
Enlightening. We should be enlightening one another. And in this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 25:25, 3:25.
Satisfied to the heart.
Satisfying to the ear and the heart. Very pleasing. So it shouldn't be fraught with tension. You know, when we're having a discussion together. It doesn't. It's not that we're just loggerheads arguing because I've got my understanding and I'm absolutely 100% convinced that the way I'm seeing it is right, and the other person's just totally wrong. You know, did you ever see the actually when we did this seminar? Years when we used to do this seminar, we would show the picture of the old lady and the young lady. Have you seen that? Yeah. So
It's from Stephen Covey's book, right?
it's there too. Yeah, it's in his book. So you know what I'm talking about. You know, one person like it's an old lady, oh, it's a young lady. It's both. You know, so there shouldn't be that kind of dispute. So the way to avoid that is this. Let's read that next. Thank you, sir.
Without being gentle, humble, how can one be a man of knowledge? Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmana. One has to become Brahmana. Brahmana means Vidya Vinaya Sampana. He must be learned and humble. Vidya means he must be very gentle. Mama. This is Vidya. That is Vidya. Education does not mean unaccessory to become proud. Second one. So Krishna says that in the process of acquiring knowledge, one must be very humble and meek. This is the first qualification.
So, how do we become a man of knowledge? How do we get knowledge?
One has to become a Brahmana.
Become a Brahmana?
By being gentle and humble.
Gentle and humble. Mm-hmm. Vidya means he's very, very gentle, Namra. And what else? In the Bhagavad Gita verse, Amanik Vamadam Vitvam Ahimsa Shantim Arjuna. You know that verse? 8 to 12. 13, 8 to 12. What's the first thing?
Humility.
Humility. Amanik Vam. Very humble and meek. So what does that mean? It means that, you know, like Prabhupada would say, we have to be a blank slate to receive knowledge. You know, one of the problems, like if you think I already know something, then that becomes a block to your learning. You have to be open to receive, you have to be humble and accept that, well, maybe I don't know everything, or maybe the way I'm seeing it isn't necessarily perfect, you know. because that's what creates conflict. Did you have a question? I'll put it in there, sorry. Does anyone have any questions on that? Does that bring up any confusion for you? For example, you know, you might be sitting in a discussion and someone says something which is incorrect. You know, you think, well, I know it's incorrect. Should I not just tell them, right? You know, because we are in someone may say a point of philosophy and you think, well, definitely that's wrong. You know, should I tell them that it's wrong? But in the discussion process, we don't do that. The whole process is we just close down, bracket our own responses. We just allow that person to speak. We reflect back what they're saying empathically, and then they do us the same service, and then we give our understanding, and in that process, transformation can take place. If everyone is going in with this mood of humility, of meekness, you know, gratitude, of mutual respect, then Krishna can help and transformation can take place. And if we have got the wrong perspective, or the other person has, Krishna will help and help us to see that and to adjust the way we see things. But that means this humble mood has to be there. Does that make sense?
So basically, without this mood, one can participate in the discussion, isn't it?
Yes. If you don't have that mood, it will be very hard.
And that means that even if the other has a wrong understanding, you know it's wrong. From the
Yes.
Shastra, they totally wrong. But you don't tell they're wrong, you just say, oh, I have a different understanding, and by explaining, then if they're in the right mood, they will shift or change their
Yes.
own understanding.
Exactly. And that does happen.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You just say, well, I see it from, you know, I actually see this in a different way. And then when they, you know, when you explain why you see it, how you see it, then the other person can, oh, yeah, actually, yeah, that makes more sense.
And then how is it, excuse me, if somebody thinks that he is in good mood, but he is not? I mean, one might think that I'm humble, but actually, it's already he's not. Like, difficult to...
I'm very humble. Most humble.
Yeah, it's difficult to tell him that actually maybe you're not exactly.
So you're saying, well, what if someone thinks they're humble, but actually they're not? Then won't that create an obstacle?
Because without this, we cannot participate in the discussion.
Yeah.
And he wants to be in the discussion, but actually he's not so qualified to be there.
Yeah. So you're saying it may create an impediment that you can't have a discussion because that person is not meek and humble and prepared
If you don't get it, actually,
to change. Yeah. Did you remember last week one of the things we discussed about what did we do last week? Training and also good sadhana is essential. That you know someone is chanting their rounds.
That will actually be your 12th principle.
Yeah. That's coming up, right? But yeah, it may be that. I mean, you have to find like-minded partners. I think Prabhupada calls Swajati in one place in the books. It may be that you find, you know, you're unable to do it with a certain person because they're just not able to make, you know, those sort of changes or to have that mood. You know, but you need to find someone.
I think if both partners are willing to take the training, last week we shared several quotes where Prabhupada says, without training, it's hard to become good. So we're not trying to say that our training is the fire or anything, but we hope it's a start. And after these seminars, to those who wish to have it, we will give you 1-on-2 coaching. We'll sit with you and your discussion partner and we will coach you. Coaching you, helping both of you in as nice a way as we possibly can to change your discussion habits. And it does take time to change, but our commitment to you is if you're committed to this, we'll commit to you until you make those changes. You know.
All right, let's have a look at principle 10. Who's next?
Principle 10. Ask questions that help clarify Srila Prabhupada's intent meaning.
Okay, so here are some quotations.
Just
Want to read these?
do you mind going back to the?
Oh, sorry, didn't have time.
No, thank you.
No, that's fine, sorry.
All of these principles are also on the webpage.
Everyone got it? Right. Very good for taking notes. They say that short pencil is much better than long memory. Okay, you all ready?
Yeah.
Let's move on. Principle 10. So yeah,
In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Not only should one hear submissively from spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. One who does not know how to put questions before the spiritual master has no business seeing him. So this is the process of approaching a guru. You must be very inquisitive and ask questions, but not to challenge the spiritual master.
so this is just a sample of so many quotations from Prabhupada in this respect. So, what's condemned?
Blind following and absurd inquiries.
Blind following and absurd inquiries. What should we? Okay. What else does it say? How should we hear from the spiritual master?
Well, we should hear submissively, try to understand.
Get an understanding, yeah. And what's the most important thing that we're doing when we have the opportunity?
Good questions.
Good questions, yeah. Inquire. And what does Prabhupada say about that? If we don't ask questions, huh?
There's no reason to come to see the spiritual master.
There's no point having a spiritual
You
master.
don't need a spiritual master if you don't have this.
It's not just a fashion. I know I have my guru, I'm initiated. You should be inquiring from him.
And the guru is that person who can help you answer your inquiries. He's actually there to help you, to teach you. It's Shastra. It's not there as a figurehead. If you just there as a figurehead, I've joined the guru club, your initiation is really not what Shastra thinks it should be. We're going to talk a lot about absurd inquiries next week.
Yeah.
Because unless we're trained, we will ask the wrong type of question, which will not help anyone. We have to know what kind of question is the right kind of question. So we'll talk about that a lot next week.
The next quotation.
Guru is not a plaything that I must have a guru, and I will never care to obey his orders. But because it is a fashion to keep a guru, I shall keep a guru. That kind of guru is useless, and that kind of disciple is also useless. One must seek after a guru when he is inquisitive to understand the transcendental knowledge, Jignasa Shreya Uttamam. It is not a fashion. It should be very serious. One who is very much eager to understand transcendental knowledge, Shreya Uttamam Jignasa, Shreya and Priya. Shreya and Priya.
So, what is useless?
Not just communication, just having a guru for the
Passion, because everyone else has got a guru, I need a guru too.
Yeah. When do you seek a guru?
When you want to understand transcendental knowledge.
Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. Do you know what that means? Shreya and prayer. What's Shreya?
Short term and long term.
Short term and long term. Shreya means the ultimate, the long term. Uttama, the greatest. Jigyasu, inquisitive. Like a Tata Brahma Jigyasa. Jigyasu. So we must be inquisitive about the ultimate good in life.
So if we go to our guru and say, Guru Maharaj, I'm having trouble in my marriage, can you tell my wife something, can you tell my husband something? Is that ultimate good or immediate good? Immediate. Is that what we should be going to our Guru Maharaj for?
Yeah.
If we're going to, can that help me to understand Shastra? What does Prabhupada mean in this sentence? What does Prabhupada mean in this passage? Is that for ultimate good or immediate good? Ultimate. And funnily enough, they'll help us sort out our other problems. We just need to understand Shastra. If we understand Shastra, we will solve all the other problems. That's what we're going to be good for.
So is
How is this applied in discussion? When we ask questions during the discussion?
Yes.
So you're saying, how does this apply in terms of the discussion? Is it that we're asking each other questions, or what does it mean? How does it work in the format of the discussion?
Yes.
Do you have a line?
Just in the principle, he said we ask questions which help to clarify Prabhupada's point. So we try not to divert from whatever we're discussing.
Right. So we ask questions to clarify the point that Prabhupada's making. So actually we're asking questions of Srila Prabhupada, almost. We're trying to understand his teaching, his meaning, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
You want to add anything?
So
Yeah,
just one more question. Does that mean that we don't bring personal issues to the discussion?
Personal issues. You mean like Shreya and prayer, that we may have some kind of temporal things like, mundane daily issues that are bothering us, and do we not discuss them? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Well, I just can tell you about our own experience that because in one of the is it part of the principles when we ask? No, that's a protocol of discussion that so what? We discussed all that.
Yeah.
But okay, so what do we learn from it? So when it comes to that, maybe we could relate to some.
We can apply it to the issues of our life.
But first we have to understand the meaning. So we're talking about different kinds of questions, and the one, how does it apply to my life, comes at the very end.
Okay.
But first we have to clarify meaning.
Thank you.
So it's a wonderful thing that we can actually inquire from Prabhupada even though we're not personally, physically in front of him.
Because he says we can associate with him through his body. Do you remember we showed you those quotes last time? He said, I'm working so hard to leave you these books so you can enjoy it after I've left.
And everything's in my book.
And you can associate with me through my books. And one of the most, for me, exciting experiences I have in a discussion when we're doing it right, because sometimes we slip into bad habits too, but we keep trying to apply the principles. And when we are applying the principles, you get this sense that lights come to you that you didn't have before. Just Lord Chaitanya says this, and I never thought about that. Because of the way you're associating with me, it's as if the Lord within the heart suddenly something starts off as a confusion, and then you discuss it correctly, and it's like, oh my God, the answer just came to me. And that's so exciting, so thrilling. You physically feel Krishna physically feel Krishna's presence. Do you remember we cited that verse for you from the Padma? I love my Kunta, and not in the hearts of the devotees. I am wherever my devotees are discussing my glories. And you feel that. And sometimes we get that. And sometimes we don't get an answer to our questions, but we write them down. We're now trying to organize more learned devotees to meet with us maybe every 6 months. There is a meeting with Bhakti Rasamrita Swami, potentially, if he confirms, towards the end of June. And those people who are discussing in this way, we can email you and ask you to send us your questions, and please send in the questions which we can't answer. And we can begin to associate with senior devotees by putting questions to him that we couldn't answer ourselves. So, we've been trying to create a system where up and down, knowledge goes up and down.
That's you.
Yeah, just one question. When we clarify, should we only quote Prabhupada's book to clarify the issue? Or can we say some from our own personal understanding? Or should we strictly just quote?
This is one of the evidences that's going to come up, one of the principles.
Yeah, we're coming to that.
But we will show you evidences, but for the short answer, for it to be conclusive, it has to be supported by Shastra. Just mental speculation and sentiment doesn't act as conclusive proof.
Just one other important point on this questioning. Do you want to read this one?
Question means the lecture on which I'm speaking. If there is any difficulty, there should be questions. Otherwise, if you go outside the present atmosphere created for this purpose, that will be lost. So question means on the subject matter which is already discussed. If there is any doubt or if there is any difficulty for understanding the subject matter which we have already discussed, that is the subject matter of question.
So, what's the main point here? How should we be asking? What kind of questions are we asking? Should we ask?
Those that relate to the current topic of discussion.
Very nice.
Exactly. That relate to the current topic.
Our philosophy is very interactive. Sorry, Tony. Our philosophy is very interconnected. So you're hearing something, and it could spark a question you've thought in your mind about a related subject. It's very related, but when we do coaching, that's one of the things that gradually I will try to get your mind to change. We can't pick up on peripheral points because that will not help us to hear the point Prabhupada is trying to get us to understand. We have to keep our questions to the point that he is trying to communicate here, not on topics which are peripheral to that or connected. And that's something which we have very bad habits in, actually. We pick up on peripheral points rather than sticking very closely to the main point.
And actually on the website, under this principle, number 10, there's a couple of case studies where Prabhupada himself stops a person who's asked a question and says, why are you asking me this question? This has nothing to do with what I was just talking about.
Yeah, these are the questions. Do look at the website because we couldn't show it all today. But there's a lot of evidence for Prabhupada that has said stop. And so this question is peripheral. Ask proper questions.
It's probably going to be completely unrelated. I'll try.
I'll stop you, don't worry.
Peripheral questions.
You need a little toy you can throw at someone. So when it says if there is any doubt or any difficulty, one thing I've noticed is that what we're talking about is very logical, very rational. It's the way we're speaking. But some people's doubts, and I know a lot of mine, they're more mental platform, they're more emotional. So let's say I read something that makes me angry. So should I just do? How do I deal with that? Is it because it is a doubt or a difficulty, but it might not be understood, in the same kind of way? So I'm just wondering.
So you're saying a doubt or confusion based on the philosophy, sort of a logical doubt, that doesn't make sense to me, or that seems to contradict something else I've read. It's one thing that kind of makes sense, but it might be that it provokes an emotive response. That you read something and it makes you angry, or challenges you in a different way like that. So should that be, is that okay to bring up, or
That's right.
Yeah. What do you think?
I have no idea. I want to, but I don't know if not just to acknowledge it, but I don't have any light on this, because I just don't have enough reference points.
I mean, I'll say something I think my wife might want to say, but also, anger is a secondary thing. So, I think it just requires a bit of introspection. Why is this making me angry? It must be challenging me in some way. I don't like it. I don't like what I've read because I have an attachment. The whole point of this discussion process is that we're trying to get rid of our anarthas. That's what's going to happen. Shrimatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayapaksto Yabatrani, the bhattras in the heart are being, purged out as we discuss. So this is a good instance of where you've hit one of them. You're getting that signal, something like that. Why? Because it's challenging me, because I have an attachment, a belief, or a cherished something I hold dear, that Prabhupada is challenging. So, I think it's articulating that, finding a way that you can get to that and articulate that as a doubt. It's a doubt, actually.
Right, okay.
And then just explore that doubt. In the context of discussion, you can remove it. Because the whole process is removing doubts. We all have so many doubts. If we didn't have doubts, we'd now be 100% surrendered to Krishna. The fact that we're not surrendered is because we've got doubts. But we don't know what they are. They're all there in the heart, buried. So we've got to get to them and expunge them by the process of hearing the chanting. That makes sense?
Yes, are you saying this? I don't know if I can do it, but I'll try. Are you saying that it is important? It is a doubt, but I have, me for example, certain emotions. It's an anartha which I'm experiencing because Prabhupada's saying something, and it has to be dealt with in the appropriate way, and I should acknowledge it. I'm not sure if you said it fits in this process of bringing up that doubt. I wasn't sure if you said that, like within the process that you're describing.
Yes, I'm saying you should. Try to get to the heart of it. Because anger arises because of frustrated desire. Something's being frustrated in you. Something's being challenged. Something you don't want to let go. Right?
Yeah.
So find that. Try and identify that. That's what I'm saying. And articulate it.
Sure.
As a doubt.
So I can articulate, let's say I've got a part, but I can articulate in, now once I try to understand Srila Prabhupada, I can then articulate the doubt that I have.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I'd also like to add something, if I may, to that. I just don't have time to finish everything.
Oh, okay.
I remember back in '96 when I started this, I was furious with the movement, and I basically lost my faith. I'm just so grateful I was married to my husband who didn't give up on me and forced me to listen to Prabhupada. But one of the reasons I was furious with the movement is I just spent 15 years of being vilified as a woman. And I'm not materially intelligent, but I'm very philosophical. And for 15 years I've had that completely negated in me, that I wasn't allowed to be philosophical. Why? Because I'm a woman and I'm less intelligent. And I remember when, in the beginning, the first 6 months or so, by the time my husband would get home, I'd be like, fumes would be coming out of my ears. I'd be like, look at what Prabhupada is saying. I was angry with what I was reading in the Gita. I was furious with what I was reading in the Gita because it had been understood and applied in a way which was very abusive to people of my gender. Very abusive. And I used to calm down, let's just try to understand what Prabhupada really means. And so I think some of the anger may become, as my husband said, because we're understanding it correctly and it's pushing our anarthas, but some of the anger could be coming because we're misunderstanding.
Okay.
So the first part, before we get to questions, we always start with understanding. It's something we'll talk about next week. We always start just with trying to understand what is Prabhupada saying. And we understand it by saying, yeah, women are stupid and they shouldn't be philosophical. They shouldn't think because they're stupid. And that's my understanding, and our partner says their understanding. And then we can ask a question. And from asking the question, we may end up actually modifying the understanding, using evidences. So it may be that once my understanding has come more in line with what Prabhupada meant, I won't feel so angry anymore, because I'll understand it in a way that is very reasonable and resonates as truth. Does that make sense?
Yes, so there's two ways we can have an emotional response or anger. I think you said so one of them is if, as Krishna said, it's if we have something in our heart which we're harboring, an anatta, and something Prabhupada saying is just resonating with that. And the second way is if actually we misunderstood what you said. And so by first understanding Prabhupada and then bringing up these particular doubts, we can help to resolve it.
Thank you. You stood perfectly. You're very good at this, Ramana. You've been well trained by my husband.
All right. So let's move on so we can do another principle. Where are we up to? I think Ramana, it's your turn.
Principle 11. Don't accept blindly. Bring up your doubts, confusions, and misgivings. So I just did that.
Yes.
So that's good.
No, no. Have you all written that down?
It's on the web page. You can
Well,
find
so
it.
no, I never actually know, so just let them write and then I'll move to the next.
Well, we have to go beyond 5:30 then to finish.
I think we'll be okay. It should be okay. 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, you all okay? Alright, so now, okay, let's get it. So you guys want to read that? I don't know.
In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Don't take it as a sentiment or as blind faith. You have got reason, you have got arguments, you have got sense. Apply it and try to understand it. Neither it is bogus, it is scientific. Then you will feel Taj Yoshanad
Ashra Prabhakavatmani Shadarati Bhakti Anupramishati.
That's that 325-25 that we quoted earlier. That
Faith, taste, and bhakti will
you will.
systematic.
So, what's the point here? What's being encouraged? What's being discouraged and what's being encouraged?
Discouraged first, wasn't it?
Sentiment and blind faith.
Right.
Yeah.
And what else?
Inquiries. Absurd inquiries.
Absurd inquiries. Inquiries are not related to the point. What is being, sorry.
What's being encouraged? Yeah. What's Prabhupada telling us we should do?
Reason.
Apply your reason.
Sense.
Sorry?
Sense, he says as well.
Sense and reason, yeah. Yeah. So, engage with it. What's Prabhupada saying? And do I agree with that? Does that challenge me, like Ramanan was saying just now? That, it may not. That's okay. Then we should try to, question and discuss. Yeah, of course, yeah.
For some reason, we don't have the full quote up. But this quote was one of those kind of like, life transforming, kind of like really important quotes that we've heard that really impacted on us. Because as a woman, my husband was a nurse, so he was always encouraged when he asked us questions. He was in that. I'm in a woman's body, and when I joined, anytime I asked a philosophical question, I was told, don't be over intelligent. Don't ask so many questions, just accept. I was even told, very, very senior devotees, I'm not going to name, very senior told me, who gave you the right to ask a question? And this had really contributed to my frustration in Krishna consciousness and my my not growing might really actually begin to feel frustrated and angry, very angry. And I was listening, my husband would just keep putting Crawford on. Most of it I wasn't listening to because I was caught up in my own mind. And then suddenly something would come through in it, and this was one of the quotes that came through, but that's not the whole quote. Prabhupada says, so now you have heard, now what? Now you must question. You have got reason, you have got sense. He said, don't accept blindly. And then he said something very interesting. So everyone just accept what Prabhupada said, don't be over intelligent. Prabhupada said, ask yourself, do I agree with Swamiji or not? And even if you don't agree, that's okay. Say why you don't agree. And if you keep discussing this way, you will feel. And here, Prabhupada, listen, Prabhupada, the first person who told me I had a right to say, I don't agree with Srila Prabhupada, and discuss it. And that, giving me that permission, that I'm not a heretic to say, it doesn't make sense, but I don't agree. I'm willing to see it, but right now, I don't see it. And that completely changed things around for me. I can't do that with most devotees, but in our private discussions with my husband and in our discussion groups that use these principles, I can say, I don't agree. And I'm not judged. And that's helping me to grow.
Does that make sense?
Arjuna does the same with Krishna, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He expresses his doubts and he wants things to be explained.
He says, you're confusing me, Krishna. Why did you say this?
I went to a class with, when I first came around 2007, Mother Urmila said doubt is a sign of intelligence.
Yeah.
That's right. It begins with doubt. So
Can I say something? Sometimes, when I'm in discussion, like I'm doing it with us, and sometimes, Prabhupada said something about blood pressure, and I can't remember which chapter, I think it's Canto 2, somewhere in there, and I said something and I didn't agree. They said, well, Prabhupada said it, why you can't disagree? Prabhupada is saying that, it's Prabhupada. Why are you on the other side,
Prabhupada says, and I quote, and I'll show it to you, it's on the webpage, I don't know where we're going to
When I saw it, I was shocked. I said, what? Prabhupada saying that? I don't agree with that.
Yes.
And I said that, and I was on the other side, Prabhuji's on that side, and I put my hand up and said, I don't agree with Prabhupada. And they looked at me and said, you don't agree with Prabhupada?
But Prabhupada would agree with you. He would say, good. You've got reason. Because if we don't bring these doubts up, and we may go to resolve some of them, we may not. The ones we don't resolve, we keep in a book. So that maybe someday we'll resolve, and we'll meet someone who can help us see it, because right now we're not seeing it. If we don't bring them up, they'll still stay there in the heart as a doubt. And when we're in trouble spiritually, they'll come up as our reason to lose our faith.
And some people didn't leave the movement because they didn't speak up their doubts.
So that happened to me when I first came. Somebody read to me, my husband read to me that women should be treated like children or something like that. Prabhupada said in Bhagavad Gita. And I said, no, I don't want to read this, he's just writing from his own mind, and I didn't want to hear it. But I didn't come to Krishna consciousness many years later again. Because that stayed, I don't know, I don't want to read Bhagavad Gita. He's right, he's on.
I just have I hope it's related, but so I understand that when Krishna Bhakti said that you said that doubts are why we're not seriously practicing. It's because we have doubts. And that's why it's important to answer those doubts. But I have a question, so is it doubts that are making us weak spiritually, or is it that would be like laziness, or sometimes we're convinced about doing the right thing, but we still don't do it because of some like laziness, sort of lethargy.
Weakness of heart.
Yeah, that's that. So I wonder.
they're saying,
The bad habits maybe.
right. But you still don't act on the conviction because you're lazy or weak-hearted, lethargic, But it's not that you have a doubt.
Yes, my question is, what is it? Is it is it the laziness or is it that I have doubts?
Yeah. So saying, is it laziness that's holding you back, or is it actually that you do have doubt?
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I don't know.
I mean, laziness and lethargy are definitely problems. I agree with you. But, you know, if we were 100% convinced in something, like we're 100% convinced that, you know, that we need to eat, that we need to sleep, that we, you know, we do those things without fail, or even chanting our rounds. You know, I think most of us will do that. But, you know, to not apply ourselves seriously, there's going to be some doubt, some complacence behind it. It's not, you know, the weakness is a problem, but we have to overcome that. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, give up lethargy, you know, and in fight. So how can we give it up? How can we overcome that? With determination, with conviction. And where do we get that from? And that's what we're saying. By this process of discussing, we become convinced that this is the right thing to do. You know, we may have reticence, we don't want to do it. So we have to overcome that. But the only way we can overcome it is by associating with the pure devotee, hearing it, and that gradually removes the misgivings. Prabhupada calls them misgivings, you know, which is holding, actually that's what's really holding us back. Doubts, yeah, uncertain, you know, you're not sure. Does that make sense?
So it's basically saying that these doubts, because we have, why we don't stop eating and sleeping, is because we know we can't live without everything. If you don't really seriously have a good sadhana, it's because you have doubts that you need this. So it's not so much laziness is there, but the preliminary anartha is the doubt.
Yeah.
And by discussing you become free of doubt.
Yeah, you'll overcome that. Like men are convinced that, you know, if I earn money, if I get up in the morning and go to work and earn money, I can improve my life and make myself happy. They don't like getting out of bed. That's hard. You know, they're lazy, I'd rather sleep. You know, but they'll do it because they have the conviction that I must do this. If I don't do this, my life will, you know, will not be good. I'll suffer. So they can overcome the obstacles by the conviction that it's the right thing to do.
Do you mind if I add something to that? I completely agree with my husband, and I'd just like to add another perspective as well. I talk a lot about my own experience because I you know, the whole Sanga coming back experienced something. I want it to be real for you. So there's certain things I'm completely convinced about. I'm 100% convinced about. I know that if I don't discuss Prabhupada's books every day, I will suffer. Because I've experienced that. Even in the movement, I suffered. And since I began discussion, I know that the suffering will gradually reduce. I'm 100% convinced of that. And even if we're tired like anything or stressed like anything, that before we came to live, we had so much to do. We had to come here. We could only fit in like a 15-minute discussion, but we're both so convinced we have to do our discussion. Even if it's 15 minutes, we have to do it. So we do it. But there's a lot of things I'm convinced about that I am weak and I'm lethargic. I'm 100% convinced that Asat Sanga will make me take birth again as a conditioned soul. And yet I'm so weak-minded, I cannot 100% give up Asat Sanga. You know, I've given up TV, and I try not to have any big screens. I will take my little smartphone and I will watch little YouTube videos, you know, because I'm addicted and I'm too weak, so I can't get the resolve. But that, I think the only solution to that for me, the things that I'm weak in, is because only when the hearing and chanting becomes more and more pleasurable, that the pleasure I get from hearing and chanting, I don't need to get pleasure from anything else. Right now, my hearing and chanting is my medicine. I'm convinced without it, I will have pain. But it's not yet my snack food. It's not what I'll go to when I'm just feeling like low and I just want some, just that something to make me feel better. It's not like that yet. But if I keep hearing it chanting, we started these ladies' discussion groups with my husband. One day, my hope and my prayer is that when I'm just feeling like I need a break, I won't go to my Asat Sanga, which is my habituated, kind of like feel good. I'll go to Harikata. That may take me time, it may take me several years. But I know if I keep the discussions going and my rounds going, in one lifetime or other, I won't need Asat Sanga anymore. That laziness that will be replaced by a higher taste. So something could just, I can't beat myself up, but I know the solution. The solution is keep discussing Prabhupada's book. The more taste I get from that, the less inclined I'll become to take pleasure for something material.
It's just basically saying that you said that we have to, like Roger was saying, that how someone is very determined to make money, he will take the austerity of getting up early in the morning because he knows it's good for him. So in the same way, you're saying that sometimes we are weak, we still find time for some YouTube video or something else, but you're saying that the more we do it, the more enjoyment will be, the more taste will gain, it will become more pleasurable, and when this we become attached, when we start actually enjoying this, then we will be able to give up those, you said that association with all these things that are not important, and then we will actually have a chance.
Thank you very much. So let's move on. There's one other quote here on that same point, but we can just read it, and then move to principle 12. Sally, do you want to just read that?
So we request simply people that you accept this authoritative knowledge and try to assimilate it by your intelligence. It is not that you stop your argument and intelligence, simply blindly accepting something. No, we are human beings, we have got intelligence, we are not animals that we shall be forced to accept something. No, tat viti pranipate na praniprasnena sevaya. 434 Bhagavad Gita. In this Bhagavad Gita, you find you try to understand. Tat viti. Viti means try to understand. Pranipatena means surrendering, not by a challenge.
Yeah. So basically the same point, just being that we've discussed, emphasized by Prabhupada. So
I just want to make one thing, sorry, not by tonight. So if we're here, I presume that we all in principle accept Srila Prabhupada as an authority. But there may be things I don't agree. But the method we ask the question is not like, I'm going to prove him wrong. It's like, I don't agree, but I'm open to seeing it differently. That's the lack of challenge. I'm open to seeing it. Right now I don't, but I'm open to that.
And this leads nicely into principle 12. I'm not sure what she's doing.
Principle 12. Ask your questions in a submissive mood, not a challenging mood.
Don't got that written down. Ask your submissive, not challenging mood. So do you want to read the quotation?
And how to learn from the spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively. You don't approach a spiritual master whom you can challenge. Then your selection of spiritual master is wrong. If you keep one spiritual master as Shogoto, then your selection is not right. It is wrong. The spiritual master, you must select a spiritual master where you can bow down your head. Yes, submissive. Therefore you have to see. Lecture Bhagavad Gita 4.34 to set in the Rosa.
If you don't agree with him, if you think your spiritual master is wrong at a different point, then why don't you take initiation from him? You have to take initiation from it. You really do know how to pass. Think, he knows better than I know.
Yeah. Is there a question? There's another one here. I'm not sure if you know.
Merely because we put a question to a superior does not mean that he is obliged to answer us. Sometimes he may refuse if we are not able to comprehend the answer. We cannot demand. Inquiry, submission, and service are the way to knowledge. Whenever Maharaj Parikshit questioned Sukadeva Goswami, he said very submissively, "If you think that I shall be able to understand, please answer the question."
So, what are we being told here? When we question the Guru, is he always going to answer? No. Why not?
Because we might not get it, we might not be ready to understand something.
We might not be ready to understand. So, how is it that what mood should we have then?
We shouldn't insist or try to force, we should accept, submissive.
Submission.
Trust, I would say, is like if you really do have faith in that person, like you often saying that I don't know, you know, then you would trust that person that is capable of seeing that you won't understand this. I think trust is a bit.
Trust the
Trust that person.
Yeah.
You wouldn't demand, you would accept if you trust the person.
Right.
Like, I trust that you're not telling me because I don't get it. So, like, you know, then because you haven't answered a question, so then, that if you trust that person, then.
Right, so you have faith in that person that he's not answering for a good reason.
Yeah.
If he's not answering.
Somebody earlier made a very nice question. Well, how does this relate to discussions?
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying there aren't other spiritual masters and other spiritual masters in this type of relationship, but Prabhupada is our Param Guru for all of us. And when we're discussing, sometimes we'll ask questions, and through the discussion process, sometimes the light will come to us and we'll answer by Prabhupada's grace and Krishna's grace. The Lord in the heart will give us the understanding. And sometimes he doesn't, and we're left just don't get it. So when I don't get it, and there's a lot of times I don't get it, I don't think because I don't get it, everything Prabhupada says is wrong. I think I'm not getting it, and that question remains for me. But it doesn't break my faith in Prabhupada, because I genuinely, if I have faith in anyone in this world, I have faith in him. So I don't think, because it's not making sense to me no matter how much I discuss it, I just think Krishna and Prabhupada are not seeing fit to reveal the answer through our discussion process right now. And we write the question down. And there are questions I've had maybe for years, but maybe 10 years later, I begin to get it. And certain questions I still don't get. But it doesn't break my faith in Prabhupada, because my faith in Prabhupada is not as a matter of fashion. It's real. I have faith in him. You know. So that's how it comes in discussion. No matter how much you do the discussion process, you may be left with questions that you can't answer. Just write them down, keep them, bring them up with other discussion. We have a forum on Facebook, for those of you who are on Facebook, called Shastra Discussion. It's a secret forum, because it's only for devotees who use this protocols, who apply these principles. You can bring a question up on that forum, none of us can understand, keep it until you meet someone who can help you, or until the Lord sees fit to help you. Is that okay?
Yes, 13, around 2 rows. Elizabeth, sorry, I thought you were my phone.
Ask questions that can help you understand the application of what you've understood.
This is the so what that Sadhu was talking about. How does it apply to me in my life?
So here's the evidence. Do you want to read this one, Elizabeth?
We just have to try to understand by hearing and then try to put the process to practice in our daily lives. By becoming submissive, hearing from the right source and trying to apply the teachings in our daily lives, we can become conquerors of the Supreme. The one who does this, Lord Krishna becomes easily available.
Right. So, what should we try to do after we've heard?
Try to understand.
Try to understand. Sorry?
To apply.
Apply, yeah. Put it into practice. And then what's the result?
Krishna is easily available and we become conquerors.
We become the conquerors of the Supreme.
We discussed how to apply in our discussion process. And that's the very last one. We'll talk about questions next week. We give you specific questions so you can achieve all these goals. Clarifying. And the last question is, so what? How can that help me in my life? With my challenges, with my problems? How can it help me?
Here's another evidence. Master G, I don't know your name.
Megan.
Megan.
Everyone is expected to follow these rules and regulations. If one does not follow them and acts whimsically, according to his lust, greed and desire, then he will never be perfect in his life. In other words, a man may theoretically know all of these things, but if he does not apply them in his own life, he is to be known as the lowest of mankind. In the human form of life, a living entity is expected to be sane and to follow the regulations given for elevating his life to the highest platform. But if he does not follow them, then he degrades himself.
Thank you. So, what are we expected to do?
Practice what we learn.
Pardon?
Practice what we learn.
Practice. Follow the rules and regulations and apply them. There's a difference between just armchair philosophy, we just, sit and try to understand, and then we go off and do whatever we feel like doing. Prabhupada's saying, no, that's useless. What does he call those kinds of people?
Lowest.
The lowest.
So if we talk about humility, and we go out and blaspheme every devotee comes inside. What is that? So it's It's in the discussion process we have to talk about our challenges. Why I'm finding it difficult to apply. How I can come up with strategies that will help me improve how I apply. We really have to approach our spiritual life strategically, realistically, really admitting to our challenges and how we can, step by step, try to circumvent our challenges and make it comfort.
Is that okay? 14. So this was someone earlier on talking about cite Shastra to support your statements.
I think this was you, Kunti, right? The answer to your question.
Here's an evidence. That is
The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he's saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefits and elevate human society.
So, when we speak, what should we do?
Like quotes from the scriptures.
Support it with an evidence, yeah. So as we were saying earlier, who was saying that? Is it another? Oh yeah. Right, so what do you think now?
Yeah, no, okay. I was already quite convinced, but I was just asking her, so like at the beginning when you start, you don't have all these references yet, so does it mean you just don't talk?
Very nice.
You're saying, okay, what if you're a young devotee, new devotee, and you're trying to do a discussion, but you don't know any evidence, hardly. So then what do? Just keep your mouth shut? Because, you know, I can only speculate. I don't know anything. Or what should you do? Yeah, what would you say?
I'm not sure you said not speculate, so I don't know. I don't know, at the same time to encourage, would like to have to participate, or allow him to participate, but at the same time stay true to the principle, so I'm not sure what to do.
Right. What would you say?
Thank you. You knew I was trying to say something. It's such a nice point you raised, Betty, and so relevant, so very relevant. So a couple of things. Obviously, in the beginning, if you know Shastra, you may become like just searching your thoughts, say. But what we do in our discussion, we search our thoughts, what we think is correct, or from our general understanding of the philosophy, and then we pause. We may spend 10 minutes researching database. Instead of just keep talking and talking and talking, we'll pause and think, okay, this is what we think the answer is from our general understanding. But let's just pause and see if we can research the database. And sometimes our research in the database will give us an answer. Sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't, I generally use Facebook to ask my question, and I tag in devotees who know. We'll have this Shastra discussion forum too, which you can use. But another way that you can actually begin to yourself know where to look for evidences or have a clearer idea of words, key words to use when you're using database is start hearing Prabhupada more. There is a webpage called prabhupadbani.org. I'm sure there's others like this, but this is the one I use the most. And all of Prabhupada's audio files and lectures and things which are available are on that free. So when I'm cooking or whatever I'm doing, I just have it on. And often it's in the background, but I'll hear things. And if I just had a question in the morning that we weren't able to research, it is uncanny how when I've got Prabhupada on, I'll hear him answer the question. And I'm like pausing the audio, stop, and I'll write down the keywords, or write down, because you've got to write it down for a search, you've got to write down the words in the right order. And I'll run to database, and I'll put in the search words, and the evidence will come up. And then I've got it. I've got the evidence now. And we'll bring it to tomorrow's discussion. You can also listen to all the audiobooks, just the verses. You've got Prabhupada's lectures, conversations, morning walks on one side, and you've got all the audiobooks read out aloud by Amrit Bhaktaswami. So I sometimes put in the audiobooks, and sometimes the verses will answer. Sometimes the answer is in the verse, sometimes it's in Prabhupada's commentaries. So if you get into the practice of listening to our Param Guru more, you'll be able to get evidences. And it's uncanny. He will sometimes answer your morning's discussion questions if you go put him on. He just answers it. And you begin to realize that Prabhupada is alive, he's helping us.
There's a saying when the student is ready to learn, the teacher comes.
Yeah. And that's a fact. 15.
Chant Hare Krishna.
Yeah, sure.
Chant Hare Krishna mantra regularly and follow the 4 regularity principles.
Yeah. Chant Hare Krishna. Follow. So here's an evidence.
But when you chant Hare Nam, then you gradually understand what is Hare, what is his form, what is his quality, and what it is activities. Then you can understand, because without Hare Nam, your heart is dirty. unless your heart is cleansed and cannot understand what is Hari, what is his name, what is his form, and what is his quality, what are his activities, you cannot understand. Srila Prabhupada lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam 6 to 11.
Right. And what's the obstacle to understanding about the Lord?
Impurity in the heart.
Impurity. And the solution? Chanting. And interestingly, here's another quote. Would you like to read the next one?
When we speak of hearing and chanting, it means that not only should one chant and hear of the holy name of the Lord Rama Krishna, or systematically the 60 names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, but one should also read and hear the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. The primary practice of Bhakti Yoga will cause the seed already sown in the heart to sprout, and by the regular watering process, as mentioned above, the Bhakti Yoga creeper will begin to grow.
That's from the second canto. So, when we speak of hearing and chanting, what does it mean?
Not just Mahamantra, also Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. In the association of devotees.
In the association of devotees, yeah. So, how do we do that?
Remember earlier we had a quote. When we repeat, that's called, when we had a quote about repeating your own words. That's kirtana. So we hear and we repeat. That's shravana kirtana.
Yeah.
So chanting our rounds is very important. We, in our own lives, we stress these two things: discussing Prabhupada's books and chanting our rounds. We do, the bhajans and prayers as well. If we don't come to the temple, we do it at home. But these two things we once do: chanting our 16 rounds, discussing Prabhupada's books. That's the key. That's the rope.
Yeah. And discussion, because although the Bhagavatam class is really nice, quite often there's no opportunity at all for discussion. Increasingly these days you find, especially senior devotees, speak right to the last second. And if one or two people get a chance to ask a question, you're fortunate.
And the questions aren't always related to it.
And usually they're not related, because they're not trained. How's a question? To attentively hear what's been said. So you don't get the opportunity. Apparently classes weren't always like that, right? We've spoken to all the devotees that told us that the time was when everyone would come with a book and there wouldn't be one person. And now we have like senior devotees, so they speak and we listen and that's it. But it used to be like everyone was equal. So they would bring the book and someone would speak and everyone would have the book and they would discuss it among themselves, because they also, Prabhupada was saying that, they could see that, that's what he wanted. But it's evolved in a different way now. So now we have to find other forum where we can sit together ourselves, in our own homes, with our family, with our friends.
In the ashram.
In the ashram, with our God brothers, God sisters, and really try to do this. Because otherwise you don't get the opportunity, especially now, even giving class, of course, is nice, you're speaking, it's kirtan. But how many of you get the opportunity to give class? None of you. I would understand a couple. But you don't now, do you? Hardly. I mean, you might, do a little preaching here and there, but this has got to be done on a daily basis. Nityam Bhagavata Seva. Not, every 3 months or 6 months when they ask you to give a class, if you're lucky.
I have this problem, meaning that someone speaks and I got a question. But in our regular Bhagavatams we have to ask on the very end. So on the very end, my desire or my, how to say, to speak, to ask question is gone. And then without saying the question, you just leave.
Yeah.
So I'm not challenging the present faculty of classes which you have to listen and ask in the very end.
Yeah.
But I have been studying in the university, and there you can ask anytime the questions, and I can see how much more relevant, how much important if you ask immediately.
Right.
Then you have to write, and later on you're in different mood. Or this is my problem.
There's no time.
Not only time, but later on you may say, what's the use of my question? When it's really important to ask, you don't have the point to ask, and then later on it's gone, and you say, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
So how to deal with this thing?
How to deal with it? Yes. You're saying you hear a class, and then maybe halfway through you have a question.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, what's he mean? I want to ask you, but you can't because you can't interrupt the class.
Yeah.
So you might think, well, let me write it down, but then the end of the class comes and moods change. You're thinking, what's the point?
Breakfast time now.
But you have a different experience in university because there it's encouraged if you have questions.
Yeah, they encourage us always.
You bring up your doubts and questions, and you see the learning experience is very different.
Yeah.
You learn more. Yeah. So what to do about that now in our situation in the classes? Yeah. I mean, that's what we're basically saying, that the class has its place, and perhaps there may be learned devotees who are like the professors who are giving the lecture. But then we need to go away and together, like in university, you'll have tutors, won't you? And you can discuss the subject matter. The professor might just expound; he just speaks, from the lectern, and you just listen. But we're saying, okay, that's one thing, but that's not enough for us because it's very difficult to take all that in. And you may have, like I had that experience. If I hear a class now, I have so many questions. The person is speaking, wait, hold on, stop. I don't agree with that. You want to question, but you can't. So this is a better for people like us process where we can discuss our questions and sit down together and go slowly through the subject matter because it requires that. Class sometimes the purport is 2 pages or more. How are you going to study the whole of Prabhupada's purport and extract all the points and necessary, things that he's trying to tell us in 45 minutes, with no opportunity to discuss it whatsoever. And the next day it's the next verse and that purport is gone.
So create our own forums. Create our own forums. That's it. I also went to university. I did philosophy and politics. But like my husband was saying, we've had our lectures, and in our lectures we didn't interrupt. The professor, the big professor, gave his lectures. But then we had tutorials, and in the tutorial there'd be senior, either an assistant teacher or professor or someone, with maybe 12 of us. We could discuss. And then there was I forget what we called it, but there was the one-to-one they used to have occasionally. So that tutorial is called an Easter Ghosty. Prabhupada calls it an Easter Ghosty. We don't have Easter, and when there are Easter Ghosties, they're used as management tools. An Easter Ghosty is meant to be a philosophical discussion. And that's one of our missions, is to those devotees who take this seriously, take charge of your Krishna consciousness transformation, development. By all means, go to the classes, to those devotees whose classes you like, go. But then also create your own forum. Husband and wife, friend and friend. We strongly recommend you keep these forums small because you're going to have to talk about personal application. So keep it small so that you can actually get the juice you need and keep moving forward. But that we have to take personal charge. We have to make the time and the commitment to creating our own Easter Ghosty.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming.
This is the last. This is the very last one.
We have a question here.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just, I noticed there are few speakers I've heard And they're very, different approach. And they, in the middle of the class, they say, can we have a discussion? I want to make a discussion. And it's so nice.
Yeah.
Few devotees, when they say any question, is it clear? During the Bhagavatam class, it really changes the atmosphere. It's so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's better, isn't it?
So it's good to have more devotees like this.
Yeah.
So we can learn as well. We can see, oh, that's a better way to give class.
Yeah.
So other people can learn, oh, I should give like this.
Yes.
It's more productive, it's more inspiring.
We like to give class like this. There's only a challenge, a big challenge. You have 45 minutes, and if you're quite a long report, I'm always caught between just covering 1 or 2 sentences and ignoring the rest of the report, or doing just going through the whole report, you know. Personally, I wish for a day where one day they will spend more than 1 session on a report. In some temples they do. In this temple, and many temples, not just this temple, the Janmadhyasya verse, which is like how many pages? 145 minutes. I've seen on the ISKCON Desire Tree, they break it down into paragraphs. And you may have as many sessions on that verse as there are paragraphs.
Was it Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj?
Yes, 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months.
So I would hope that one day, as more devotees get into this and begin to see the value, that one day they will change their policy and have more than 1 session per purport. So you can cover the whole purport and don't make it into a monologue. Get people involved. So,
Just because it makes me remember all the quotes from the first session where it was say the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this message only activated when we actually discuss. So if we actually start to implement some question and discussion in these classes, then actually the power behind this message are activated and we get more out of it.
We'll get more out of it.
This is the last principle. Where are we up to now?
Principle 16, practice and then preach the principles of good Sadhu Sanga.
Practice and then preach the principles of good Sadhu Sanga. There's some evidence.
Unless one practices devotional service himself, he cannot teach it to others. This conclusion is indeed confirmed throughout the Gita and Bhagavatam. So that is part of our business, to preach. But to practice personally, that is our main business. To practice personally, that is our main business. Not that everyone will be a preacher, but at least his own life be perfect.
So what's the emphasis here? That we should do what?
Embody ourselves, like these principles before we share them.
Practice, yeah.
You can't preach if you don't practice, really.
But
Yes.
we do.
Become a living example.
And we often preach at the expense of practicing. But first they know. First your own practice, your own sadhana, make time for your own discussions. Then
Yeah. And there's one last evidence. Not that preaching's not important, because here's a nice quotation. Can you read it to me?
Yes. When the florist was offered benediction, he began from the Lord.
He
When
begged.
the florist was offered benedictions, he began.
Begged.
Sorry. He begged from the Lord that he might remain his eternal servant in devotional service, and by such service do good to all living creatures. By this, it is clear that a devotee of the Lord in Krishna consciousness should not be satisfied simply by his own advancement in devotional service. He must be willing to work for the welfare of others. This example was followed by the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. It is therefore stated in the prayer about them, Lokanath Hitakarimu. Vaishnavas or devotees of the Lord are not selfish. Whatever benefits they derive from the Supreme Personality of Godhead as benedictions they want to distribute to all other persons. That is that this raises apart humanitarian activities.
Thank you.
Please read this on the webpage. There's a lot of other quotes with different nuances on this.
Yeah. So both things are important.
I just like to say something, in one quote, Prabhupada says, when we preaching, even one other person. So when we preach to each other, that's preaching. If we have more capacity, we preach to our children, we share the food discussions with our children. We can preach to a friend, share the process. When we're sharing our realizations and hearing and helping our friends, serving our friends, it's preaching. It doesn't always have to be seminars and things, but we're sharing. Machitam matgatam prana, Vodayin tascha parasparam, Katayin tascha mamucham, Tusham ticha, Ramatisha, Gita 10:9. Thoughts of my devotees always dwell in me, and they derive great pleasure and satisfaction from always enlightening one another and discussing about me. So when husband and wife do it together, that is preaching. And if that's your full capacity, without neglecting your own practice, then do that. If you can do more, but the practice must come first. Otherwise, there's other quotes where Prabhupada says, if you preach but you don't practice, you're a cheater. You're a cheater.
Yeah.
Yes, I was thinking as you were saying that, it says at the end, whatever benefits they derive from Krishna, they want to distribute. So if we haven't actually practiced, we won't derive any benefits. There's nothing to really give them, like you said.
That's really good. So you're picking up, you're saying that what are we actually distributing to others? Something we've got, that we've gained, the benefits of Krishna consciousness. So if we haven't gained any benefits ourselves, how can we distribute anything to others? Right? You saw that point. That's, yeah. Well noted.
May I say a little bit more?
Sure.
First of all, thank you very much for that. I just have to say something else. Personally, it is my great hope that every one of you will one day teach this. But that is far less important than hopefully each one of you will practice it and have sustainable, life-transforming experiences. That is what is the most important thing. And only when you really feel, my God, this is changing our lives, then I hope you will encounter that with one person, a neighbor, a class of help you know are struggling, a brahmachari you know is losing his faith, a brahmachari you know who's struggling. Share it with just one other person, anyone, according to your capacity. Your child, whoever, just share. But you won't be able to share it effectively if you're not feeling the benefits. And you won't feel the benefits if you don't prioritize practice.
Any last questions? Sally?
Question about evidence. Yeah, I really appreciate the way you say that we kind of actually, it's a matter of practice also. It's not, so we need to get into the habit to wanting to find evidence, even if we don't find it, but still, But, so my question, actually, the two separate questions. One is that when do we actually apply this, when it's an understanding, because earlier on with understanding we said we don't argue, we don't say, oh, you're wrong, you just accept what the other person. So evidence doesn't come into that.
No, we find evidence.
You still find it?
Yes, so we don't argue. If you read that section, we don't argue. I don't say, that's rubbish. No, I understand your point, and then say, let's look for evidence.
Right.
I will help you to find evidence. If I can't, then I think, well, I can't, can you find evidence? We still have to have evidence.
So for understanding also, we still need to
understanding is different, because understanding the evidence is the line on the page.
Yeah.
That's the sentence you're doing. That's not an evidence. You don't, but you may ask
There's
a
no
question.
need for evidence.
Yeah, because that's the sentence. That's the sentence. There is Prabhupada's words, and you're just telling me how you understand that sentence. And I think that's something else. Sometimes we need coaching, because most devotees, when they do an understanding, they end up making a comment. they're not understanding.
Right.
They start making their comments, how it's affecting them and what the things that's making them remember and think about. That's not an understanding. So we need to learn how to do an understanding and how to be able to differentiate between an understanding and a comment and a realization. For realizations, we need evidence.
Okay.
For understanding, that is the evidence.
Okay.
And that's the kind of nuanced helping you get it that we'll do in coaching.
So you're saying that the evidence for understanding is the actual sentence. If we stick to the sentence, then it can be, we just try to see it from a different point of view, but the evidence is the sentence.
We don't try, because it's not that I've got to see it differently because, you know, I want to do it. No, we will see it differently.
Right.
We will see it differently.
So the other question I have about evidence is that because we do have, as you said, okay, we don't speculate, we need to have evidence, but we still use, we can still use our own reasoning, can't we?
Yes.
Could that be as a evidence?
Anuman is called reasoning, but reasoning based on what? When reasoning is based on life experience only, of no Shastra, it's inconclusive. But when reasoning is based on Shastra, like we read this in Shastra, we read that in Shastra, it's not a direct quote, but we can reason based on these two things that something is right. That's okay. But reasoning based on, well, I see the moon as only being this big, therefore it can only be this big, that's not conclusive, based on my life experience. Because my perception of life maybe is through my my conditioning. But when I say, Shastra says that when we speak about hearing and chanting, we don't just mean chanting the holy name, but we also mean discussing books like Gita and Bhagavatam. And Shastra also says we must regularly hear and chant. And I can take these quotes and do Anuman. Anuman means logical conclusion.
Yeah.
That if I want to understand Shastra, I have to chant my rounds, which is hearing and chanting the holy name, and I must regularly discuss books like Gita and Bhagavatam. So that's Anuman. Based on direct evidence, I can draw a conclusion.
Right. So you're saying that the Anuman and the direct experience, we still need to use it related to the Shastra.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, then in that case, my other question is that, so when can we, because you do encourage we think for ourselves, yeah? So when that comes into, when there's a question or even realization, when I can think for myself, if everything has to be exactly,
Okay, so sorry, do you mind if I'm in this? These are really nice points. Think for ourselves. Prabhupada says, these are quotes I can show you. Two things he wants. He wants all his devotees, which includes us, to develop two qualities. He wants us to be independently thoughtful, not mindful, but think for ourselves. And the second quality he wants us to develop, I mean there's other qualities, but these are two which are relevant to this. He wants us to become Shastra Chakshus. So he wants us to see through the eyes of scripture, but think for ourselves. That kind of independent thinking, through the eyes of Shastra, will help us. Thinking for ourselves, if it's not through the eyes of Shastra, it's mental speculation. And that's the first thing Lord Chaitanya says, give it up. Stop, let's Please say the verse. Can you say the whole verse and the English?
So you should give up the speculative process of, just trying to understand with your intellect, but you should hear Shruti Katantana. So apply, your intelligence to hearing Shastra, and use that as your gauge. Thinking for yourself means I don't just accept blindly anything anyone tells me. I want to see, well, where is that supported in Shastra? Because that's the anchor, the cast iron sort of.
That's conclusive.
Yeah.
Conclusive.
It comes back to that
so
all the time.
What I understand is that you say, okay, there's a question, you think for yourself first. You might have, like you always ask, oh, what is your life? You will kind of think for ourselves, but before expressing it or before
you can express it because you may need to think, but then you've got to find conclusive evidence. It's not conclusive without Shastric evidence, is my speculation. I may have to start at that level, but then take time off to research Shastra. Or use our forum or ask other devotees, I think this is the question, but do you know if there's any conclusive answer to that? I'm supporting or rejecting my view.
Okay.
So think for ourselves is very good, but think for ourselves without Shastra is mental speculation, and mental speculation is poison for our spiritual progress.
Thank you.
Sometimes it's difficult to find just the answer. We've done that. Don't know which page, which chapter. It's difficult sometimes.
It is difficult. Do you remember some? So you can write those questions down. If you're on Facebook, send me a message, I'll add you to Shastra discussion. But I warn you, I'll only admit questions which follow this format. We're not kind of like an oracle, what is the meaning of my name? It's following this format of scrutinizing Prabhupada telling us the sentence. If you read some of the other good posts there, Vinkashore posts there very nicely numbers, you see the format, just follow that format and we'll help you. Do our very best to help you. And sometimes the answer may not come to any of us. We'll keep those questions when we meet with more learned devotees and bring our questions together. These are the questions that we as a community, including our Sanga, couldn't answer. Can you help us, Maharaj? We treat senior devotees, learned devotees, help us understand Shastra.
There is a website that Chaitanya Charan, spiritual scientist, and for years he's been posting questions and answers. Many questions you can find spiritual scientist.
Right. It's a good website.
Spiritual scientist?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find many.
Yeah, that's right. He's very good. I like this website.
He's very good.
Yeah. He's coming here soon. Any other last questions?
I had a little comment I'd like to make. For next time, I was hoping, if you have time, if you would do a little bit of homework, which we can use as part of our presentation next time. And if you could even send it to us so we can go through it a little bit and we can be a bit prepared for next time. So this is the homework. You can use any of the quotes we gave you in the handout last time, or you can take any sentence from any purport in Prabhupada's books. Just tell us the sentence and tell us the purport and where you got it from. Write out the sentence from Prabhupada's teachings, either the handouts we gave you or any word of your choice. Then write your understanding and write questions which you think are important to ask about that. Because next time I'd like to use that as we're going through the useful protocols to show you if your understandings, if you're getting it, or how we can help you improve and understand. What's the difference between a comment and an understanding? And what's the different kinds of questions, whether your question is peripheral or not peripheral. And we promise we'll keep them anonymous. We'll read them out, but we won't say the names. In fact, you can give it to us without names. But just something practical for you we can begin to give you demonstrations. What is an understanding and what is a comment? What is a good question and what's taking you off track? Is that okay?
So, I'm not sure I understood. We pick a quote from the first session from any quotes from Prabhupada.
Yes.
And we write
one sentence out.
Our understanding.
First write the sentence. Yeah. So we've got Prabhupada's words. Then write your understanding and write questions. That's what you would question about that sentence. Okay. So you've got the actual words of Prabhupada first, then your understanding, putting it in your own words, and then your question. And we'll try to use some. If we can get it before next week, that'd be great, because we can look through some and find examples, and that might help you.
Which address do we send it?
Yes, we will give you our address. Do you want to give yours, or should I give mine?
You mean for sending it?
Yes.
You can send it to KD at krishnazara.com.
Okay. then you share with me too, so that I can
Yeah.
analyze them for next week too.
Well, you can put yours down, or write your address down so they can send it to you, and then we can.
So ZA, and it's not case sensitive. ZA 1080, surprise, surprise, at gmail.com.
Yeah. So thank you very much for coming.
Can I just ask something?
Yes.
Last week we started with 4 questions. We've got 5 minutes left. Can we just very quickly get you to answer those 4 questions now? Is that okay? So these were the 4 questions. What is Sadhu Sanga? Say it out loud.
What is Sadhu Sanga?
Discussing what? Yes. It's associated with Srila Prabhupada's Bani. What are the benefits of correct Sadhu Sanga? If we're associating with his Bani correctly, what will be the benefits to us?
Liberated.
We'll become liberated and happy. Does everyone agree? What is the danger of not doing Sadhu Sanga correctly?
Become degraded.
Will become degraded. Oh, not make it once and then fall away. Does everyone agree?
Yes.
What is the solution if we're not doing it right? If we're not happy, if we're not feeling happy or progressive in our life, what is the solution?
Ask someone who is doing. Ask someone who is doing.
Yes, get training, learn how to do it. Those will be shared 3 quotes in the last session for classes. Without training, one cannot become good. Does everyone agree?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
A question, what is your website where you have all the quotes?
Yes. I'd like to see it. Is it okay if I write it this slow?
Yeah.
It's a free website. So if you're doing it on the phone, it's really horrible. Loads of ads come up. On the laptop, it's slightly easier. Improving Sanga dot WordPress dot com. So we have the video we showed you last time is on the home page. Then we have some different menus that it's easier to see on the laptop and the computer. I find on the phone I find it quite confusing. We have above we have principles and useful tips. The useful tips is what we're going to do next week. And we have some sample videos of how to do a discussion on Discuss With Me. And we have a blog at the bottom where we just share, keep updating quotes we hear from Prabhupada and share them. You just have to scroll down to see the blog. So,
Thank you very much. Jai Om Rai Shri Prabhupada. Come to God, through the charge, through the Sindhu,
thank you so much for coming.